I'm Chloe, and I remember the day our parents' lawyer sat Max and me down, his face etched with sorrow, to tell us that we were now alone in the world. Losing our parents was like losing the sun and the moon. Our world was shrouded in darkness. We had each other, though. Max was just 13 at the time, with wide, innocent eyes that looked to me for guidance. As his big sister, I knew I had to fill the void left by our parents' absence. "I'll take care of you, Max," I promised him, holding his trembling hand. "We'll get through this together." He looked up at me, his eyes filled with fear and uncertainty, and whispered, "Will we be okay, Chloe?" "We'll be more than okay," I reassured him, squeezing his hand. "We'll make Mom and Dad proud." I worked multiple jobs, fighting against exhaustion and despair, all to make sure Max had everything he needed. He was my responsibility, my family, and my best friend. Our evenings were filled with laughter, tears, and endless talks about everything under the sun. Max was an ambitious young boy, passionate about his studies and full of dreams. He often talked about becoming a scientist or an engineer. "Chloe, do you think I can build something that'll change the world?" he'd ask, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Of course you can, Max," I'd reply, ruffling his hair. "You have the heart and the mind to achieve anything you set out to do." We built a small and content world for ourselves, filled with love and understanding. We celebrated small victories and comforted each other during failures. Despite our loss, we managed to find happiness in each other's company. Our little apartment became a sanctuary, a place filled with memories, laughter, and endless support. Friends and relatives would visit us, marveling at our resilience. "Chloe, you're doing an incredible job with Max," Aunt Lucy would say, her eyes filled with admiration. "I'm just doing what needs to be done," I'd reply modestly, knowing that my love for Max was the driving force behind everything I did. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day. We were a team, facing the world's challenges together. But little did I know that the strength of our relationship would be tested, that the love and trust we had built would face a storm that would change everything. Our story was just beginning, and I was blissfully unaware of the twists and turns that awaited us. But in those early days, all that mattered was Max's smile, his dreams, and our shared determination to make the best of our situation. That was our world, and I would have traded it for anything. Max's 18th birthday was a turning point. He had grown into a strong, intelligent young man, and I was bursting with pride. The late-night study sessions, the shared dreams, and the promises of a bright future all culminated in this moment. I had managed to save enough money to buy Max a house, a place he could call his own. It was a symbol of his coming of age, his independence, and my unwavering belief in him. Finding the perfect house was a challenge. I spent weeks scouring listings, visiting properties, and negotiating with real estate agents. Max had no idea about the surprise I was planning. The anticipation and excitement bubbled inside me like a well-kept secret. The day I handed Max the keys, I'll never forget the look on his face. "Is this really mine, Chloe?" he asked, his voice trembling with disbelief. "It's all yours, Max! Happy birthday!" I exclaimed, hugging him tightly. "But how did you... This must have cost a fortune!" he stammered, tears glistening in his eyes. "I've been saving for years, little brother. This is for you, for everything you've achieved, and for the incredible person you've become," I said, my own eyes welling up with emotion. The house itself was modest, but filled with potential. It had 2 bedrooms, a cozy living room, a small garden, and most importantly, it was Max's. We spent the following weeks painting, furnishing, and transforming it into a home. Each brushstroke, each piece of furniture was a testament to our shared journey and love. "Chloe, I want this room to be blue like the sea," Max would say, his eyes twinkling with excitement. "Anything you want, Max." "This is your canvas, your life. Make it as colorful as you wish," I'd reply, equally caught up in the joy of creation. We invited friends and family for a housewarming party, and their praises and congratulations filled the house with warmth. "You've done something extraordinary, Chloe. Uncle John said, clapping me on the back. This house is more than bricks and mortar. It's a symbol of your love and sacrifice. I just wanted to give Max a chance to thrive, Uncle John. He deserves the world, I replied, looking at my brother as he laughed with his friends. Our days were filled with hope, excitement, and a sense of accomplishment. Max started to embrace his new life, making plans, and envisioning a future filled with possibilities. But as Max's life began to unfold in this new house, the dynamics of our relationship subtly started to shift. The house, which was meant to be a beacon of joy and freedom, would eventually become the stage for unforeseen conflicts and the entry point for a person who would challenge the very fabric of our relationship. Yet in those golden days of happiness and celebration, those shadows remained hidden, and we reveled in the triumph of a new beginning. As the days turned into weeks, Max began to settle into his new home and new life. Our relationship remained strong, but I could sense a newfound independence in him. He started going out more, meeting new people, and building a life of his own. One day, Max called me with excitement in his voice. "Chloe, I've met someone. Her name's Emily, and she's amazing. I want you to meet her." My heart swelled with happiness for Max. "That's wonderful, Max. I can't wait to meet her." We arranged a dinner at Max's new house, and I prepared myself to meet the girl who had captured my brother's heart. When the door swung open, and I was greeted by Emily's bright smile, something inside me hesitated. It was a feeling I couldn't quite place, a shadow of doubt that lingered at the back of my mind. But I brushed it aside and embraced Emily warmly. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Emily," I exclaimed. "The pleasure's all mine, Chloe," she replied, her voice sweet but with an undertone I couldn't quite identify. We sat down to dinner, and the conversation flowed easily at first. Emily was beautiful and charismatic, and she certainly knew how to command attention. "So, Chloe, I hear you've been playing mom to Max all these years. Must be tough being stuck in that role," Emily said, her words wrapped in a guise of curiosity. I was taken aback by her remark, but tried to keep my composure. "It's not about being stuck, Emily. Max and I are family, and we take care of each other." Max seemed oblivious to the tension, laughing and chatting, his eyes fixed on Emily. As the evening wore on, Emily's comments became more pointed and condescending. She would slip in sly digs about my job, my appearance, even my relationship with Max. "Chloe, don't you ever get tired of controlling everything in Max's life?" she asked at one point, her eyes narrowing. "I don't control Max's life, Emily. I support him just like any sister would," I replied, trying to hide the hurt in my voice. "Of course, I didn't mean it like that. I just think Max needs to grow up and make his own decisions," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. I looked at Max, hoping for some support, but he seemed to agree with Emily. "Chloe, Emily's right. I need to live my own life, make my own choices," Max said, his voice gentle but firm. The rest of the evening passed in a blur, the joyful anticipation replaced by a nagging discomfort. I left feeling bewildered and hurt, a rift growing between Max and me. As I drove home, Emily's words echoed in my mind, her thinly veiled insults leaving a bitter taste. I knew, deep down, that things had changed. Max had found someone new, someone who seemed intent on driving a wedge between us. My brother, my best friend, was slipping away, and I was powerless to stop it. The chapter had closed on our perfect world, and a new uncertain one was beginning. It was a chapter filled with doubt, resentment, and a growing sense of loss. It was the chapter where Emily had entered our lives, and nothing would ever be the same again. Months flew by, and Max's relationship with Emily deepened. They were inseparable, and Emily's influence over Max became more apparent. My once close relationship with my brother started to fray at the edges, the warmth replaced by a cold distance. Then came the announcement. Max and Emily were getting married. "Chloe, Emily and I are getting married. I want you to be there, by my side," Max said, his voice filled with joy and expectation. "I'm happy for you, Max," I replied, my voice cracking with mixed emotions. "I'll be there, of course." As the wedding preparations unfolded, I found myself more an outsider than a part of my brother's life. Emily took control of everything, her assertive nature leaving no room for anyone else's opinion. "Chloe, we've chosen the bridesmaid dresses. You'll look stunning in this," Emily declared one day, holding up a dress that I knew would not suit me. I tried to voice my opinion, but Emily cut me off. "Oh, don't be so fussy, Chloe. It's just a dress. It's just a dress. It's our big day, after all." The wedding day arrived, and the tension was palpable. Guests filled the beautiful garden, the air thick with anticipation and perfume. I stood beside Max, my heart heavy with unspoken words and unacknowledged feelings. "You look beautiful, Chloe," Max whispered, his voice gentle. "Thank you, Max. You look very handsome," I replied, forcing a smile. Emily made her grand entrance, all eyes on her. She looked radiant, confident, and completely in control. As the ceremony proceeded, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing my brother forever. The vows were exchanged, the rings were placed, and Max and Emily were pronounced husband and wife. At the reception, Emily's true colors began to show. She teased and taunted me, her words sharp and malicious. "Chloe, I hope you're not too lonely now that Max is mine," she said, a wicked smile playing on her lips. "I just want Max to be happy," I replied, trying to maintain my composure. "Oh, he's happy all right. Happier than he's ever been with you smothering him," she retorted, her eyes glinting with triumph. I looked to Max for support, but he was caught in the whirlwind of celebration, oblivious to Emily's behavior. The evening wore on, each moment stretching into an eternity. The dance, the toasts, the laughter, it all seemed hollow and forced. My heart ached with the realization that my relationship with Max had irrevocably changed. As I drove home that night, the memories of the wedding played in my mind like a haunting melody. I knew that Max and Emily's marriage marked a turning point, a shift in the tides of our lives. I was no longer the most important person in Max's life. Emily had taken that place, and with it, she had brought a darkness that would soon overshadow everything we had built together. The chapter of the wedding was over, but the story was far from finished. The seeds of resentment, betrayal, and revenge had been sown, and the storm was yet to come. In the months following the wedding, the bond between Max and me grew more tenuous. Our interactions became strained, filled with unspoken grievances and suppressed emotions. Emily's presence loomed large, a constant barrier between us. One day, I went to visit Max at his house, bearing my customary monthly gift of $4,000. I was met with a hostility I hadn't expected. "Chloe, why do you insist on coming over like this?" Emily doesn't like it, Max said, his voice tight with frustration. "I'm just trying to help, Max. You know I've always supported you financially," I replied, taken aback by his tone. "Emily thinks it's time for me to be more independent, to stop relying on you," Max said, avoiding my eyes. "Is that what Emily thinks? Or is that what we think?" I shot back, my patience wearing thin. Max's face flushed with anger. "Why do you always have to make everything about you, Chloe? Maybe it's time you let go and let me live my own life." I was stunned by his words, a cold chill settling over me. "I've always supported you, Max. I've been there for you every step of the way. And now you want to push me away." "It's not about pushing you away, Chloe. It's about growing up and making my own decisions," Max said, his voice softening. "But at what cost, Max? At the cost of our relationship?" I asked, tears welling in my eyes. We stood there facing each other, the silence thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Finally, Max spoke, his voice filled with a sadness I hadn't heard before. "Chloe, I love you, but Emily's my wife now. I need to make her my priority. His words hit me like a physical blow, a clear declaration of where his loyalties now lay. As the weeks went on, the chasm between us grew wider. I continued to visit Max and Emily, each time met with increasing hostility. Emily's barbs became more vicious, her disdain more apparent. "Chloe, why don't you find someone of your own instead of clinging to Max?" Emily sneered one day, her eyes filled with contempt. "I'm not clinging to anyone, Emily. Max is my family. Something you clearly don't understand," I retorted, my anger bubbling to the surface. The quarrels became more frequent, the atmosphere more toxic. Emily's influence over Max was complete, her manipulations tearing at the fabric of our relationship. The house that I had bought with so much love had become a battleground, a place where trust and affection were replaced by resentment and betrayal. The chapter of our strained relationship was a painful one, filled with loss, confusion, and a growing sense of injustice. My brother, my confidant, had become a stranger, and I was left to grapple with the reality of our broken bond. But beneath the surface, a fire was kindling, a determination taking root. Emily had taken my brother from me, had turned our love into something bitter and twisted. I knew that the time for passive acceptance was over. The time for revenge was drawing near. The storm was coming, and I was ready to face it head on. As the seasons changed, the tension between Emily, Max, and me continued to escalate. The house that I had once bought with love and hope had become a battlefield, a place filled with anger and resentment. I still went to visit them, still handed over the $4,000 every month, but each visit was more painful than the last. Emily's taunts were relentless, her cruelty knowing no bounds. One day, I arrived at the house to find Emily in a particularly foul mood. Her eyes were cold, her words biting. "Chloe, I don't know why you keep coming here. We don't want you. Your money's nice, but you can leave it at the door and go," she spat, her voice dripping with malice. I felt a surge of anger, but I kept my composure. "Emily, I don't know what I've done to deserve this treatment. I've always tried to be kind to you, to support you and Max." "Kind? You call this kind?" she snapped, waving the money in my face. "This is control, Chloe. You think you can buy our love? Buy our loyalty?" I looked to Max, my eyes pleading for support, but his face was a mask, his eyes averted. "Max, please tell her that's not true. Tell her how much we've been through together, how much I love you," I begged, my voice breaking. Max's face was pained, his voice hesitant. "Chloe, maybe it's time to let go. Emily's right. We need to live our lives without your interference." The room spun, his words cutting me to the core. I had lost him, lost my brother to Emily's manipulations. "I never interfered, Max. I only wanted what was best for you," I stammered, tears streaming down my face. "What's best for me is what I decide, Chloe." "Not you!" "Not anymore," he said, his voice firm, final. Emily's laugh was harsh, triumphant. "You heard him, Chloe. Now leave." I stood there, my heart shattered, my world crumbling around me. I had given everything for Max, had sacrificed so much for his happiness. And now I was being cast aside, rejected by the very person I loved most. "I hope you'll be happy, Max," I whispered, my voice filled with defeat. "I hope you'll never regret this." With those words, I turned and left, my footsteps heavy, my soul crushed. That was the breaking point. The moment when I knew that things could never be the same again. Emily had won, had taken my brother from me and turned him against me. But she had also awakened something within me, something fierce and determined. I knew that I could not let her actions go unanswered. The time for tears was over. The time for revenge had come. As I drove away from the house, a plan began to take shape in my mind. Emily had taken everything from me, had broken my heart and my trust. But I still had one thing she didn't have: the deeds to the house. The legal right to take back what was mine. The storm was brewing, and I was ready to face it. Emily and Max would pay for their betrayal. They would learn that revenge was a game I was willing to play, and I would play to win. The week that followed was one of determination and preparation. I sought legal counsel and gathered all the necessary documents to prove my ownership of the house. The once cherished gift to my brother had become a symbol of betrayal, and I was resolved to reclaim it. The day finally arrived when I went back to the house. My heart pounded as I approached the door, but my resolve was unwavering. I knocked firmly, and Emily answered, her face contorted with rage. "You! I told you not to come back here!" she screamed, her eyes wild. I met her anger with calm determination. "The house belongs to me, Emily. I have the deeds. You and Max have 1 week to leave, or we'll take this to court." Max appeared behind Emily, his face pale, his eyes wide. "Chloe, please, let's talk about this. You can't just throw us out." "I can, Max. And I will." My voice was steady, my words final. "You both made your choice. Now you must live with the consequences." Emily's fury was unbridled. "You'll regret this, Chloe. You'll regret ever crossing me." "I already regret trusting you," I replied, turning and leaving them to their fate. The week passed, and true to their nature, Emily and Max refused to leave. The matter went to court, and the trial that ensued was a tense, emotional affair. In the courtroom, I faced my brother, his face drawn, his eyes filled with fear and confusion. Emily's arrogance was undiminished, her defiance unwavering. My lawyer presented the evidence, the deeds to the house, the proof of my financial support. Emily's attempts to fight back were futile, her lies unraveling under scrutiny. "Your Honor, it's clear that Miss Chloe is the rightful owner of the house. She bought it with her own money, and her generosity has been met with betrayal and contempt," my lawyer argued, his voice firm. Emily's lawyer struggled to counter the evidence, his arguments weak and unconvincing. The judge's verdict was clear and unequivocal. "In light of the evidence presented, I find in favor of Miss Chloe. Mr. Max and Mrs. Emily are ordered to vacate the house and pay $50,000 in compensation." The gavel's fall was like a hammer blow to Emily's defiance, a sweet note of justice to my ears. I looked at Max, searching for some sign of the brother I once knew. His face was a mask of defeat, his eyes filled with remorse. "Chloe, I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice broken. "Sorry doesn't change what you've done, Max," I replied, my voice filled with a sadness I couldn't shake. And with that, I walked away, my revenge complete, justice served. The house was mine again, but it was a hollow victory. My relationship with my brother was shattered, perhaps forever. The chapter of revenge was closed, but the wounds remained, deep and unhealed. Emily's influence had taken its toll, and I was left to pick up the pieces of a broken family. But in the midst of the pain, there was also strength, a newfound resilience. I had stood up for myself, had fought back against betrayal and injustice. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to face it, knowing that I had the strength to endure, the courage to fight, and the wisdom to move on. The story of Chloe, Max, and Emily was a tale of love and betrayal, of generosity and greed, of family and loss. It was a story of choices and consequences, a lesson in the power of revenge and the price of justice. In the end, I was victorious, but the victory was bittersweet. The house was mine, but the family was lost. Revenge was satisfying, but justice was cold. And yet, I knew that I had done what I had to do. I had taken control of my destiny, had reclaimed what was mine. And in doing so, I had found a strength I never knew I had, a determination to live my life on my own terms. For that, I was grateful. For that, I was strong. For that, I was free.